of thing.
Okay.
But again, that's not a decision that I'm able to make.
That's okay. I just thought I'd ask to see if it was possible. I know I'll take
Of
as
course.
good a notes as I can, but it's always nice to have a video.
How do you know if you don't ask, right?
Yeah.
So Trevor, I see that you're with the Town Kitchen, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And it looks like you may be a new user, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I've put in probably 3 or 4 hours so far, so you can treat me like I'm pretty green. I've gone through and started adding our inventory items and feel pretty comfortable with adding purchases and conversion units. And I only just started to touch on building recipes. So I think be fair enough to treat me like a total rookie so I can see if I've been doing everything correctly or not.
Sure. Well, that's what this is. That's why we have the intro to ChefTec. So it'll be a good overview of how it all flows in there. So is there anybody else joining you, Trevor, from the Town Kitchen?
Just me.
All right. And what is your position there?
I am head of product. So I'm coming from another food service operation called Eat Club in California. And one of the things that we do not have at the Town Kitchen is a recipe database or any kind of inventory or production tool. So that was one of my first priorities to get something on board when I started. Because I know without recipes or a database, it's really hard to manage the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So this definitely you'll be able to do, ChefTec will be like one-stop shopping once you get it all going.
Yep.
Okay.
Just got a lot of data entry to do in front of me.
Yeah, initially, yes, I will admit that is there, and we do offer packages to get that done too. We have been highly involved. We have a few projects on the board right now that we also do in our training department. But once you get it all in there and it's all valid and clean and streamlined, then you'll be amazed at how automated all those processes can become.
Yep.
All right, so moving on, let's see, I also see another attendee. It's showing up as William Baskin.
Hello.
Hi there, is this William?
It is indeed.
All right, William, my name is Linda with the training department at ChefTec. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
So it looks like you're with Montana State University, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
All right. And what is your level of experience with ChefTec?
I've used ChefTec at a couple of food service operations in the past. I haven't used it in probably 4 years. So I'm just looking for a refresher and to kind of reassess how it might help our program with what we have going on here.
All right. And let's see, do you prefer Bill or William? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. I usually go by Bill, but either is fine.
Okay. And so what is your position with Montana State?
I'm the director for the Culinary Arts program.
All right. Of Culinary Arts.
I should add, we are a new program. We just started. We launched a little over a year ago, so we're really starting from scratch.
Perfect. Well, I actually am working with another educator in the culinary arts in another similar school, another school district. And so, yeah, it's exciting to explore what ChefTec can do as far as that goes, and because he discussed how not just how to cook food and prepare food, but also how to manage the back office procedures and, you know, managing the costing and purchasing and all that. That's all a part of it. And so ChefTec helps to bring that to the classroom.
Great.
And is it just you today, Bill?
It is. I might have a joiner at some point, but for now it's just me.
Okay, perfect. So I see one more attendee trying to, it looks like she may be logged in. Misty, are you on the He'll be trying to call in here in a minute, it looks like, and then we can get going here. So I just wanted to also make sure that everybody is able to view my screen. Right now it's the gray screen in ChefTec, and I'm making a circular motion with my mouse. Is everybody seeing that on their end?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, hi, is this Misty? Uh-oh. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, I see, are you calling from the, I see it showing on the screen as Misty. Are you calling from Devour Desserts?
Looks like she's calling in from her phone. Maybe she's having some issues.
Okay. All right, let's see here. I'm just going to use my chat.
Hello?
Hi, is this Misty?
It is.
Oh, perfect, Misty. Thank you for calling in. This is Linda with the training department at ChefTec. You're with Devour Desserts, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So
So,
I think I
Misty,
accidentally asked somebody to share a screen by accident. I'm pressing buttons. I have no idea what I'm doing.
so I just wanted to make sure that you're able to view my screen. There's a gray screen in front of you with ChefTec and the circular motions of my mouse. So Devour Desserts, I think I recall you joining a Back to Basics some time ago. So have you been working in ChefTec since then, or?
No, I think I joined for like a second. I was at my house and I couldn't get Wi-Fi signal and I had to go. So
I see.
I haven't touched it. I know nothing about ChefTec. I don't know anything about how I'm like a complete and total new user.
New user. Okay, well, perfect. That's what this class is, has been created for, the new user, and even anybody that's requiring a refresher. So what is your position with Devour Desserts, Misty?
I own it.
Okay.
I'm the owner.
And will there be anybody else joining the call with you?
No. Nope.
Okay. All right. So it looks like I've gotten everybody checked off from my roster. This is Intro to ChefTec. And again, my name is Linda. If you are wanting to view more of your screen, if you'll look on the Go to Meeting box, there are two arrows pointing towards each other in the upper right corner. If you click on those two arrows, it'll minimize that entire box into a taskbar. And that will allow for you to have more of your screen visible. And we will be going through basically a good review of ChefTec and all that it can, not everything, but the basic, on the very basic level, the recipe costing, inventory, and how to get your database built so you can get the recipes costed and get purchases going in there. And so we will pause at every so often for questions, and you are more than welcome to ask a specific question if I go over something and you need a little more elaboration on that. So
okay, sounds good.
So perfect. So this is the gray screen of love, as we call it here, because this is the screen. Oops, sorry about that. This is the screen you want to make sure you're back to before you log off of your ChefTec. So this will ensure that all the information you've entered, it will be retained, and also that when you go to log out, any changes that you've made will also be retained. The best practices for exiting out of ChefTec or logging off is to use this gray exit button, as you can see here. You never want to use this upper red X in the upper right corner because that will not completely log you out of ChefTec. And then when you try to get back in, it'll show up as though you're still logged in. So make sure you're back to this gray screen and you use this exit button to log out. ChefTec is a live database, so the natural refresh and so there's no save. So the refresh is to log out or actually close out of the specific list view you are operating within to refresh and retain all your information. So if we go to the upper right corner, you will see that I am showing you where you will be able to view the specific product that you will be operating within. I am in my ChefTec product, which is what we use in training. And then right next to the product is the profit center that I'm operating within, the grill dining room. Not only will you see the profit center in the upper left corner, but if you go to the bottom of the screen towards the center, there you'll see the profit center indicated there, along with the version. 8,000 is the most recent version of ChefTec, and these few numbers after the decimal indicate the most recent update of ChefTec. Our technical team is constantly testing and coming up with enhancements to ChefTec, so it's been updated and enhanced 75 times now. That occurs every 2 to 3 weeks. The update is available to you if you are if you're having ChefTec as a subscription, it'll automatically update. If you have it and if you're using ChefTec, if you have it within a local server, then you can go to the support website and you can download the update there using your login information. So we have here our primary drop-down menu bar, and it's called the drop-down menu bar because, as you can see, there are a number of options when you click on each one of them. You can access any of the functionality available to you within your specific product package through the ChefTec drop-down, open, and then you will see all the functionality of ChefTec. Some of these may not be available to you, in which case when you try to access that functionality, it'll prompt you to contact us, and then we can discuss whether or not you are interested in adding that to your product package. So right below the drop-down is our primary button bar. This button bar is somewhat customizable through our setup button here. And so we'll just go ahead and open up a few to begin with. And as you can see, each one opens up a different functionality or list view. And within each list view, you'll see also that there is a left tree that will always serve as a filter for what you are viewing on your screen at the moment. Through our setup function, we can customize that button bar as I told you. I'm going to go ahead and before I close out of all these functions, take note also that there is a property you can activate where all your functionality will, well, anything that you've opened up currently will appear as a taskbar on the bottom of the screen, which makes it really convenient to navigate between when you're trying to accomplish different processes in your ChefTec rather than having to go and open up and close out of each one here. So you can activate that through the setup. So I'm going to hit my close all icon to get me back to that gray screen. We'll go to setup, and it is here that you have that property show taskbar to display open windows on the bottom of your screen. But to get this toolbar a little more customized to your specific operation, you will go to the setup button as I did before and hit the set toolbar within this window. On the right side of that window, you'll see all the buttons on the toolbar currently appearing on my primary button bar. So take note of the way they look right now. We're going to just change it up a little so you can see how it takes effect. So my close all right now, you can see that there's a check mark next to a checkbox next to it, which isn't checked. I'm going to check it. And then I'm going to take my inventory on hand and move it to the left side of the screen. So I'm highlighting and using this arrow to push it to the left. And then I'm going to go ahead and highlight productions on my left side and push it to the right to go on my button bar, buttons on toolbar. and I'm going to take production and move it up a few positions. And I'm going to take my reports and actually move it down beyond orders. And I'm going to also check help. I'm going to leave production sheets unchecked. So take note of the way the button bar looks at this moment. Once I hit OK, you will see the changes have taken effect. So not only does my help show up with a question mark only, but the description is appearing next to it. Same with close all. Before it was just an icon. Now there's a description because I checked the box. Production sheets is only showing as an icon because I didn't check the box, but I did add it to the toolbar, and I moved my reports down on in as far as the position on my toolbar, and I moved my inventory on hand off my button bar, which you're not seeing anymore. So that's how you can get it more set up. So let's go ahead and set things back the way they were. I actually want to move this off.
So today when you're teaching me, are you going to only be teaching me the functionality that is currently in my package?
No, this is our basic. This is Intro to ChefTec, and there's actually 3 other organizations joining the call with you. So I'm doing an overview for everybody.
Got it. Okay, got it. Got it.
So I'm going to keep my inventory on hand off. My button bar, I'm not needing that, and I actually will move my reports. I'll move my setup a little higher up on my bar, and that's fine for me right now. So I'm going to hit OK, and now you'll see the changes take effect again. So actually, I always like to take this off too. That works. All right, so there we go. That's how you can get your toolbar, button bar set up a little more customized to your specific organization. So we're going to start with our inventory. Inventory is the backbone of your ChefTec database. So this is where all the information will flow through to your costing of your recipes. It'll hold the costing of the cost of your ingredients, you know, individually. It'll hold conversions, and you'll see that as we go through all the functions here in ChefTec. We've also got invoices. That's how you pull in your purchases for your inventory. The best way to start building your database is through invoice entry because it pulls those purchases and purchase units. And then recipes, ultimately, that's how we want to cost out. So notice how everything here is showing up on the bottom. And so you can see that as I toggle between each of these different views, the secondary button bar will change as far as what options I have within that specific functionality. So my recipe list, these are the options. So if I go into invoice list, you'll notice that I have fewer options in my invoice list. And the same thing with the inventory list. So this secondary button bar will always correspond to the view that is currently on your screen. So just a couple of things to take note of. We have within our inventory list, the left tree, as I said before, it is a filter. So if we were to, I'm just going to collapse some of these views so that we can see more. Okay, so as you can see right now, if we can possibly like mute whoever is having the dinging or the ringing on their side, if we can mute, we can always use the chat box to pose questions, and I will answer them when I come to a good stopping point within my explanation. So as I said, that we have the inventory list, and we have a filter on the left tree here. So you can observe if I go to all, we have 572 items within my all list view. And then if I go to my all stocked, you'll notice that the count on the right corner here shows 425. So let's look at the difference. So we have all, which has green colored font items, blue colored font items, and black colored font items. And then if we go to all stocked, you'll notice now we only have the blue and green colored. Why? Because ChefTec comes pre-populated with 1,900 inventory items, 75% of which have useful conversions and nutrition built in already. So we always advise when you're building your inventory to try and match your purchases specifically to the items already built into ChefTec to avoid having to build everything from scratch. You can,
Right.
of course, build it if you're needing, if there's something very specific and unique. But if you stick to that, then it'll cut down your time. So an item
Okay.
becomes stocked, and then it turns from the black color, as you see, are not stocked, to green, as you can see here, and then the Metro Shelf will appear next to it. And so if we go into our all stocked list, you'll see that there are no black colored font items in here because these are all stocked. Items become stocked either through entry of a purchase by invoice of the, containing the item, or through the use of that item in a recipe. And so then it'll change from black to green and have that Metro Shelf appear next to it.
Okay.
Okay, so just a moment, there was a question that came through the chat. I will get back to that. Not only do you see the green colored font items here in the all stock list, but you'll also see the blue colored font items with a dinner plate next to them. Those are the sub recipes, which will also be listed in your inventory list, and that's the benefit of having a sub recipe or assigning that sub recipe category. It allows for you to now have it appear in your inventory. Aioli, for instance, is a good example. You may make it every few days, and so you'll want to take the raw ingredients and deplete them to then become the aioli that will be inventoried and then be depleted through sales possibly, or usually that's the way it is depleted. So not only do we have the difference between the colored font, but for best practices, we say to take all your raw ingredients or your inventory items and stick to the lowercase lettering. And then for your sub recipes, you'll want to assign a uppercase letter to the beginning of each word within the title, such as Alsatian potato salad, as you can see in anchovy sauce. So it's easier to identify which items have actually been purchased and which ones have been generated or produced in your kitchen this way. And also when it comes to printing your reports, they do not print in color. So if you stick to the lowercase for your raw ingredients and inventory items and the uppercase for your sub recipes, on your reports, it'll be easy to distinguish between the two since the colored, they do not print in color. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few different ways to filter. So we have the all stocked. We have account categories. There's account categories preloaded with your ChefTec, but you are able to go ahead and edit or delete or add additional account categories if you're needing to do that. You want these categories to mirror what is established in your accounting system, and you'll want to assign only one account category to each of these items because you don't want to account for the cost more than once in your cost.
Okay.
Inventory categories, on the other hand, you may create as many as you'd like and assign as many of these as you'd like to your items. As you can see, cheese, we have it filtered by cheese here. If we go into dairy, you may see a few duplicates there. And so it's just, again, a way to filter through your inventory. So if you want to assign more than one of these inventory categories to your items, you may want to do that so you can get more specific views of your inventory list. Let me just take a look at the question that came through the chat. I have, can I copy an item, two items with different preparation but the same nutritional info? In example, i.e. butternut squash whole, butternut squash pre-cut. So you can, typically the way we advise to address such a thing is to take your butternut squash as a raw ingredient, have it in your inventory, and then create a recipe for diced or cut butternut squash. Make sure that you assign that sub-recipe category so now you can inventory the prepared butternut squash. That's just one way to do it.
It's not actually prepared butternut squash. It's bought vendor pre-cut. So it would still be an ingredient. All I really want is to grab the nutritional information and the allergen information out of one ingredient and copy it. Exactly.
Yes, and we will be touching upon that here shortly once we dig into the little bits and pieces of information within each of these items. So that's a great question. You're very welcome. All right, so let's go into our all stocked. One of our favorite, there's a couple of different ways to sift through your items to look for a specific one. One way is to just simply highlight into your list and start keying in the first few letters. So I just keyed in TOMA, and so that brought me right to the area of my list that starts with that sequence of letters, TOMA for tomato paste. And that is generally the way we say to name your ingredients, is to start it with the most significant description, such as you see here for tomato, follow it by a comma, and then add any other descriptors afterward, after this, putting a space after your comma. So it's the search will be based on your punctuation and spacing. So we say stick to one way to name everything. So start with the most significant description, tomato, comma, space, and then any description after. So that way, if you have multiple users accessing the database, it's easy for them to look and search and identify items, and you avoid creating duplicates, which will then pull in random costs and conversions, and it'll throw everything off. It just really mucks up and messes up the database. So as you can see, we went to TOMA for tomato paste, and then our favorite is the text in item name at the bottom of your left tree. This is an advanced lookup, so if I were to put in TOMA and hit contains, now it'll populate with everything within my list that contains that sequence of TOMA, even sub-recipes where it appears at the end of the title, items that are not stocked. So this is the best way to search through your database before creating an item. So that way you can see if it was named some other way than you're used to seeing. And you can go ahead and pull that item in through this advanced lookup and go from there. So if we were to just take a look at one specific item, such as tomatoes, this is what we call the snapshot of the recipe, of the item. So this is where all the little bits and pieces of information will flow through your database. So you can see here, you can actually assign account categories right within the snapshot. You can also assign inventory categories. Locations will automatically populate once you get into creating and setting up your physical inventory. You cannot populate the information here. You can assign a location here. It'll be automatically updated once you've populated the item in a specific location. Here, this is physical inventory unit, so what unit you are counting this particular ingredient by. So right now it's saying within my walk-in, as you can see, as I clicked on a location, there was no physical inventory unit because I do not count it in my bakery location, but I do count it in my walk-in. And as you can see, there's a Metro shelf appearing next to it. And I counted by the case and by the pound. So as you build your ingredients or items, it'll get all these bits of information populated for you. Our general tab is where we can determine whether or not we want to sell this item as well. So I have saleable clicked, which opened up that PLU field to sell different units of that item. And then it is here that you assign the unit, the PLU, which you will want to match your point of sale system, and then also the price of each of those units. Usable factor will influence how much of this tomato is actually usable in the cost. So usable factor of 0.9 means that only 90% of this tomato is usable. So when you're using it in your recipes, rather than it costing maybe, for example, $1 per tomato, it'll say it'll cost it out at $1.10 to account for the 10% that is not being used. And these are other pieces of information that you can populate later on, that will automatically populate, and then you can go ahead and choose to populate in some other form or some other way. Typically, we'll be sticking to food and beverage. Consumable supply goes towards the non-edible items, usually like napkins, paper goods, and such. So that's where you can assign this. And this has more to do with the functionality when you have the event management module. So it doesn't really influence any other functionality of the item in ChefTec unless you're operating within your event management module. Costing method will be the last purchase, as you can see here, but then there's also all these other costing methods you can assign to this particular item. ChefTec's default is the last purchase price, but again, if you wanted to change that, you can go ahead and do that here within this item. And then here, this is a handy feature within the snapshot, the recipes list. Say you have an item that is discontinued or too high priced and you need to replace it or completely eliminate it. Rather than you having to remember or recall where the item was used within your recipes list, you can just go into the snapshot and just go ahead and double click on the recipe, at which point you can just go ahead and eliminate the item or change it out if you're wanting to do so. So it's a handy feature there. Fortunately, when you close out, it gets you back to the list, in which case you have to go back into the snapshot again. And the way to access that snapshot is actually to double click, or you right click, edit highlighted item, and it takes you right there. Units and descriptors are the different units by how you are using this particular item in your database. They will automatically populate as well. Perpetual inventory unit is the way it's being counted in my physical inventory. These other pieces are with higher functioning in ChefTec. Common conversion unit, I think, will pertain to the purchase unit there. Conversions, this is a pain point for a lot of organizations just because their costing isn't occurring accurately and because they just don't have the proper conversions in place. A lot of times it just takes a moment or two to just kind of look at how conversions work, and then it's easy to understand how to get the conversions populated. 3 important questions to address when entering conversions are how I purchase it, how I'm counting it in my physical inventory, and then how I'm using it within my recipe. You need a conversion to take that purchase unit down to your recipe level unit to get the recipes costed out accurately. And then if you are also using nutrition in your organization, you will need to have one of those conversions address the unit of weight if you're only using units of volume. So we will dig into that a little more as we go through the class. Product codes will populate per your purchases of this particular item. So as you can see, product code it populates for each particular unit, purchase unit, and also specifically for each vendor. So for Boulder Produce, we have the case assigned with this product code, and then we also have the pound from Boulder Produce with this product code. So there's a few, this will hold all that information in here for you, and it'll be, again, based on the most recent purchase. Purchases, again, here's the history. We even have a graph to show you whether it stays the same or whether it increases in price. So it's a great tool to use when looking at the costing of ingredients. And then nutrition, of course. So this is where all the nutritional labels will be collectively fed from the nutrition within each of these ingredients or inventory items. Nutrition cannot be altered on the recipe level. It'll have to be altered on the ingredient level. So if there's a spike in nutrition in your recipe, there are some useful reports to zone in on which particular ingredient is causing that spike, and then you can go into the ingredient itself and alter the nutrition if that's what's necessary. Currently, the tomatoes that shows here for this nutrition is by the weight of 100 grams, and our source is the USDA website. If you wanted to copy nutrition, as it came from Trevor, I believe, for the butternut squash, you can see here's that copy function. So if we were to click on copy, you can do an advanced search. So you were looking at butternut squash. Let's pretend that we're trying to do what the example you were speaking of. You put butter in, and then you hit contains. And of course, I don't have butternut squash in my database, but you can see how the advanced lookup will pull up everything that contains the word butter, in which case, if you wanted to copy the nutrition for that ingredient for the diced or cut up butternut squash from the whole butternut squash, you just simply click OK, and it'll push all the numbers into your ingredient there. So that's how you copy nutrition.
You may be getting this. It does. That was perfect. Thank you so much. And then the second question, which you might get to later on, is how do you search for ingredients without nutritional values?
Oh, yes. There's, we'll get into that towards the end of the class. There's actually a report you can generate that will pull that into one report.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So there's a few other ways to get nutrition going here. If you wanted nutrition to be shared, then that means that all changes that you make to one ingredient, which with the butternut squash, which may be to your benefit because it's all going to be the same. If nutrition changes for whatever reason, if you share it, then when you change it in the one ingredient, it'll change it within the other when it's shared. If at some point the nutrition starts changing between the two, then you can go ahead and use the separate function here. Couple of other ways to get nutrition going. We have the USDA website, which actually opens up a separate window for you to do a food search within the website. So if I went into food search and I wanted to look up butternut squash, there you are. You have all the different types of products with butternut squash, and you can look for butternut squash itself as well, in which case you can go ahead and do the food search. It'll pull up a list, and it'll open up the nutrition for you here. Of course, remember to stick to the 100 grams because that's the natural unit in ChefTec. And then you can go ahead and transpose these numbers. If you have two screens, you can have the USDA website window open on one and then your ChefTec on the other, and then go ahead and transpose the numbers, or you can share the screen between the two. A lot of times with data entry, I'll have half the screen populate with the USDA website and then half the screen with my ChefTec. Oops, let me get out of here. All right, so that's how you can get nutrition going. And then also CSS service, that is a service where you will be provided a login after purchasing the service, and it gets added to your product package. And then once you enter your login information, there'll be a prompt or a way to search for the ingredient, and then you see this copy into my ChefTec, which will then go ahead, just like the share function pushed all those numbers, this copy into my ChefTec will also push all the numbers in here for you, so you're not having to manually enter line by line. All right, so that is the snapshot of the item. So you can see how it's really crucial to make sure that this list stays valid and clean, avoid the duplicates so that we don't have random costing and nutrition going into our recipes. And again, this is like the foundation, the backbone of ChefTec, your inventory list. Are there any questions regarding that?
It appears that you've taken all of the preloaded items out, or at least the majority of them. I had 1,000 when I started. Do you suggest removing all ingredients that won't actually be in your inventory? Hello?
I'm sorry, I was talking. I was on mute there for a moment because I went to drink some water. So I have actually not taken any of the ingredients out. All I've done is actually search within the pre-populated list for the ingredients and try to match them for my specific needs, my specific database. And so once you enter a purchase through an invoice of that ingredient or you're using it in a recipe, it changes it from the black, not stocked, as you can see here, no Metro Shelf, it'll change it from the black to the green. So for example, if I went into almonds whole and I simply went, without even doing a purchase, without even entering an invoice, if I went in here and said, I know the base cost of these almonds is, if I were to buy it by the pound for $15 and I hit okay, no longer will you see the whole almonds as a black colored item, but now you can see it has changed to green with the Metro Shelf because I've entered a purchase. And then you can even see this last purchase date appearing here. So that's all that's actually occurred with my specific database. I haven't taken them out, I've matched it. But if you were to leave it, just black, then it won't show up in your stocked list. You can just go to your all stock list to not see them. And then you can also make them inactive if you wanted to by making sure that the active column.
Inactive. Okay, that's a good idea. Because
So,
I'm looking at like almonds whole and almonds whole blanched and almonds whole unblanched. I can imagine if somebody's building a recipe that's not super familiar with the entire inventory list, they may mistakenly add one of those three that they didn't mean to. That's all.
Right. So inactive is a great way to do it. And also if you have seasonal items, you can use that inactive function to take them out of your stocked list, and then you can just, and to make it active again, all you have to do is go into the inactive list and then
Great.
just double click on active, and then it'll be back in your active list again.
Wonderful.
So
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then there was another question that came through here. I think it was adding a new item. That's a great question. So as you can see, I went to new and then enter new item. You can actually enter a new item, or I always advise to do that advanced lookup as we did before, the text and item name. But if you wanted to enter cheese, new, and hit OK, then it opens up the snapshot of the item, and at which point you can go ahead and populate all the little bits of information that you want there. So if you wanted to go ahead, as you can see, we have all these tabs on the bottom. If you wanted to start on the left side with your item tab, you can assign it to the food category, and then you can attach it to dairy and also your cheese inventory categories. You also have the ability to add a new category or an account category if you're needing to do so. Right click will be your best friend because that'll allow you to do all these other functions within ChefTec. Locations will not populate here. As I said before, you'll have to go ahead and go to your actual locations to get the information going there. So if I wanted to say I'm going to store it in my walk-in, I can actually go highlight walk-in and then populate how I'm going to be inventorying this cheese by the case perhaps and by the pound. And so now for my walk-in location, that has populated with the physical inventory unit. Oh, look at that. That's something that I never saw before, that you can actually get that populated here within the snapshot. So I was told differently before, but I guess you can go ahead and get that added through the snapshot here. So, and then here's your units and descriptors, and then you can go ahead and add your conversions here. Purchases, typically you would go through an invoice to enter a purchase, but you saw how we entered a base cost, and we already looked at how to enter nutrition as well. So it is through the new button in your inventory list that you can add an item. So we will go ahead and move into invoices because that is the best way to get your inventory going. Observe now we also have that left tree again. All my invoices will show up if I click on all. As you can see on the right corner of the screen, we have a count of 25 invoices within my invoice list view. We can filter for recent, and we can filter by vendor as well. Anytime you see new vendor, no vendor, you don't want to eliminate that because that does have functionality in your ChefTec. It is a placeholder when entering conversions if they're going to be universal. And again, it's a placeholder, so when you are adding new vendors in, it'll hold the place for you there. So you can see also that we have all these other vendors here within our invoices. And then you can also filter by, on the bottom of the screen, you can see we have a date span to filter our invoices, all dates. And of course, I'm in recent. So if I go to all, then of course, it'll go back to, now I have 166 because I went to filter for all dates. You can actually provide a specific date span if you're wanting to do so. You can filter previous 7 days, previous 12 months, and you can see all the different options there for you. So there's a few different ways to get your invoices to populate on your list view for your specific needs. I'm going to go back to all, and I'm actually going to go to all dates. And as you can see here, here are all my invoices. So let's go ahead and take a look quickly at how to get a new invoice entered, because that'll also show you how an invoice looks at once we've completed it. So within invoices, we can click on new. It is here that you can choose from the drop-down menu of vendors. So let's say I wanted to do spices and more. Or if I have a new vendor, I can click on new vendor right within the entry of a new invoice to enter a new vendor if we're wanting to do so. So you can enter the new vendor information here. Usually an email and phone number are sufficient these days. I'm going to cancel, but I'm going to stick to spices and more. Invoice number is required, so 2, And then the invoice date, whatever date you're going to be entering the invoice for, I'm going to leave today's date. Number of items is an option to use as a check and balance, but we tend to stick to the total amount. This is a check and balance, and I'll show you how it serves as that balance when we enter the invoice. Total amount will, it'll show in the corner of the screen as you populate the invoice, and you'll have to match it. And so that'll ensure that you've transposed everything off the invoice correctly. I'm going to hit OK, which will now bring me to the shell of the invoice. You can see here we have spices and more with the address appearing here. So all that information will appear according to how you're entering that new invoice. And then over to the right side of this invoice, I'm going to open the window up more. We have the invoice number appearing here, the date, and the amount. As you can see, we also have, similar to our inventory list, we have the same sort of list appearing here for the vendor spices and more. And if we were to click on different vendors within my left tree, it'll populate with a different list. So the more you build or the more you purchase from a specific vendor as you're entering your invoice, the more this list gets populated, which makes it really easy to get the invoice going. So I see a question coming. Just to clarify, I use one product name in the inventory even if purchased from multiple vendors, correct? That is correct. The one product will populate with all the different vendors, all the different units of how you're purchasing that particular item, and also all the different costs, depending on how the information is entered. And it'll always default to the most recent purchase, but you do have the ability to choose different costing methods if you're needing to do so. But yes, there's no need to enter multiple products just because you're purchasing it from a different vendor. So let's go ahead and get this invoice populated. I'm going to start with artichoke hearts. So you can click on the item and use this icon that will push it onto the invoice to the right. And then you can populate the product code and quantity, units, and cost, and so far. I like to get the items all populated and then go column by column as much as I can. It just makes it faster, in my opinion. So I'm going to also show how you can cherry pick and pick multiple items to be pushed onto the invoice at one time. I'm holding my control key down. I'm going to click on the first item, which will not retain, but if once I click on the second item, you can see how now you should have this arrow with a dot inside. I'm going to go back to my basil fresh, which will also retain, and you can see now we have 2 highlighted items. And I'm going to just go ahead and pick a few different items here. And let's say garlic peels and horseradish. So I have all those items chosen or selected, as you can see from the blue highlighting. And I'm going to click on this icon, which will now push all those items onto my invoice. Once I have the items populated, you can go ahead and enter the product codes if you're wanting to do so, which will attach to the case and that you are purchasing these items by how you're purchasing these items from the vendor. And then 6.5, oh, that's already there. And then so forth. So just for an example, I've attached those product codes there. Now I'm going to enter quantities all the way down the column. And then I'm going to go to units. And from here on, you won't be able to go down the columns, but you'll go through to enter the cost and populate the next line. So we'll say 2 pounds of basil, which is the LB in ChefTec. And then I will say for the 2 pounds, I purchased that for $10. And so you are entering the extended cost for the 2 pounds here, which will break down by unit cost here. And so it's letting me know that this product code assigned to no unit. So I'm going to say, yes, I want it to be assigned to the pound now, which will come up probably often as you start to build your database. And so here for the capers, I'm going to say I bought 5 jars for, let's say $30. And then of course, here we go to product code of 20, we'll say, so it doesn't get confusing. and then the quantity of 4 cases, and we bought those 4 cases for $60. And then for the coconut oil, we'll say that's actually a product code of 1256, so it doesn't get confusing. 3 jars again, and then that's going to be for $25. And then 2 lbs of the flour for all-purpose flour for $5. Okay, garlic peeled, say 1 case for $10. And then horseradish 6 ounces for let's see here, $5. And then 4 jars for $20. So there we go. We have everything populated. Our product codes that we needed, quantities, units, and the extended cost, which has now broken down on the line to the unit cost. But if we look over here, we said that we are entering $150 worth of purchases when we started the invoice, but we've entered $165, which will now cause me to go back and double check. Where did I go wrong? Where is my cost off? Let's say for this 4 cases of Parmesan cheese, it wasn't $60, but actually $45. And so as I enter through, you'll see now that there's a match, which has caused the 150 to turn to green. And so we're good. You can then go ahead and add itemizations of the date paid if you wanted to do that. You can itemize how it was paid. We'll say it was credit. And if you're paying by check, you can also itemize that check number for the payment, and then even the shipping, fuel surcharge, and total tax. And so once you've completed the invoice, you can click complete, which will then not allow for others to go in and yourself to alter any of the information deliberately, sorry, inadvertently, I should say. And then if you needed to alter the information, you just uncheck that complete box to alter it if there was a mistake made. So I'm going to hit complete and close out of here. And so now if we go to recent, we have spices and more appearing here. And there is the date and the invoice number as well. So that's how we're going to pull in the purchase units for our inventory. And so ultimately you want to be able to get things costed into recipes from those purchase units. So let's go ahead into our recipes function. And here's that left tree again. All recipes are showing 51 count. You can assign, create and assign as many recipe categories as you want. It's a great way, again, to filter through so you can get a more specific list view of your recipes when you're looking at them. And then we have recipe locations. That's an operational decision as to how you create and assign those. You can even filter by author. So you can see as I go through each one, there's a different number of recipes created by each one of those. So let's go ahead and take a look at a recipe, Alsatian potato salad. So once we open up the recipe, I double clicked, we have Alsatian potato salad, the title appearing here, and then right below there is the yield. So the yield of all these ingredients together with their quantities collectively will yield 12 pounds. The portion will be the individual portion that we are serving this particular potato salad. These fields are interactive, so if I were to change this 4 to say an 8-ounce portion, and I tab through, it'll change the 48 now to 24 number portions for the 12-pound yield. So that's a great way to go ahead and get the information populated in there. And then we also have on the right side active, so you can make your recipes active or inactive. You may have some seasonal recipes that you don't want to show up in your list throughout the year. You can go ahead and uncheck the active and it'll put it in the inactive status, and no longer will it be on your active recipe list. Sub-recipe, as I said before, will be the way you can take these raw ingredients and have them depleted to now create the inventoried Alsatian potato salad to be sold by the 4-ounce portion, which will need to be assigned before assigning being able to check the saleable box. The saleable box is only accessible after assigning a portion. And then if you have a PLU for that through your point of sales, you go ahead and enter that information here. This, if you have a sales interface, this will be the handshake between your ChefTec and sales or point of sale system. Categories, these can be created per your needs. ChefTec does come pre-populated with a bunch of them. You are welcome to delete, rename, or create new ones if you're needing to do so. And then we have locations, again, operational decisions to be made. And then plate, you can even assign a plate or a bowl, create new ones if you're needing that here. And then tools to create this recipe can be assigned, created, or renamed here as well. And then we, of course, we have our ingredient list. We start with the quantity, the units of how we're using these ingredients, and then the ingredients themselves. And then we have right here a word processor, the same as any other basic word processor. You have the ability to edit. There's a spell check function. There's a degree sign here for when you are entering the number of degrees you're preheating your oven or heating your burner. And then, of course, you have the text style and font here, font size as well. So that's the way the recipe would look when you have it created. And then we have the cost tab. So as you can see, these are the particular trouble spots here that are showing. So it's saying that this aioli is not costed out completely. So that's why it's presenting as a problem here. And the apple basil vinegar is also not costed out completely. So the way to go in and check what's going on is to right click on the aioli. As you can see, before we right click, there is not being costed out. So this cost that you're seeing here is not accounting for any aioli or apple basil vinegar. Neither is it accounting for this garlic peeled. So right click, open sub recipe, because you want to go to the sub recipe and get it costed. And let's go to the cost tab within this sub recipe. And according to the cost tab, this garlic peeled is missing a conversion. So, and you saw that it also presented a problem within the larger recipe of Alsatian potato salad. So let's go into the aioli and let's go ahead and edit inventory item of the peeled garlic, and let's look at how it's being used. We're first going to look at the fact that it's being used as the clove, and then within our purchases, we have to identify what's the most recent purchase, which was the case. And we just purchased that. So that's why it's presenting a problem, because we don't have a conversion for spices of more, communicating how many cloves are in the case. So if we go into our conversions tab, we'll go to a new line to go and enter a conversion for spices and more. And you can just opt to say 1 case equals 200 cloves if you wanted to go about it in that way. And then we hit OK. And now that conversion error is gone. And the 30 cloves are costing out at $1.50. And so the distilled vinegar, there's no purchase. So, you know, I have it in my inventory. I don't feel like going and entering an entire invoice just to get this vinegar to cost out in my recipe. So I'm going to edit inventory item, and I'm going to go to my purchases tab, and I'm going to enter a base cost. So I'm going to say that 1 bottle, or I can even, because I'm using this distilled vinegar by the fluid ounce, I can say that 16 fluid ounces equals $2. And let's take a look at what happens once we've entered that information. We don't have the purchase issue anymore. So now it's also being costed out at 15 cents. As you can see, we can play with the costing method here, cost of most recent purchase of each item, or however, whichever method you would like to choose, average price, lowest price, highest price. Sometimes that's the other option people tend to choose, so that way they don't have to worry about it. But ChefTec will naturally default to the most recent purchase. These fields are also interactive, so we have the single portion cost of 46 cents. And so I'm choosing to sell this for $6 per 2 fluid ounce portion. If you wanted to change that, if you wanted to change the percentage of the cost, you can do that, or the price. Let's say I wanted to knock that down to $3. Tab through. Now the percentage has changed to 15.3% with a margin of $2.54. If we went back to $6, you'll see that it's changed back to the 7.7 with the $5.54. But remember, this aioli is a sub-recipe that's an ingredient within a larger recipe. So I'm going to close out of my aioli and look at what happens. Because we also entered the conversion for the peeled garlic, it's no longer presenting as a problem here. It is being costed for 20 cents per portion. And also my aioli is being costed, and no longer do we see any costing complete problem here. Apple basil vinegar, let's go ahead and take a look. So remember, when you're working with the sub-recipes, you are going to open the sub-recipe to address the issue. And so it's saying for the basil fresh, it's missing a conversion. That's because we just purchased it from Spices and More. So I said that I'm purchased 2 pounds, but ChefTec has no idea for Spices and More, or in general, how many cups are in a pound. So let's look here. So we don't have any units addressing the pound as per the most recent purchase in relation to cups. So I'm going to go to a new line and go Spices and More for my drop-down menu, and say for the 1 LB, I get 2 cups. And we're going to hit OK. And now we don't have the issue of the conversion missing. We now have a conversion in place. It's a little pricey, but this is just for an example. So for this apple basil vinegar, now we have a single portion, and then the 53-cent price will generate a 24% cost with a margin of 40 cents. But this is, again, another sub-recipe within this Alsatian potato salad. So now we have our Alsatian potato salad completely costed. No issues here. We have the entire recipe costing going here too. And so let's say I wanted to increase my margin to $5. So now you can see it's increased the price and the percentage of my cost, or reduced the percentage of my cost. So that's how you can play with the costing there within your recipes. Let's go ahead into nutrition. So as you can see, all those little bits and pieces of nutrition within each of the items feed into this nutritional label here. Let's see here if I can. I'm trying to make this smaller. There we go. And I'm always having issues getting the scrolling. I increased the resolution to show you how it all looks at a better point of view. If I can just get this to, there we go. So if we were to go further down, you can see here that we have the nutrition going, and per all the ingredients and how the nutrition has been built in each of those ingredients. So you can see there's no way to alter the nutrition here. It is on the ingredient level. So the aioli is showing incomplete nutrition information. I'm going to double click on that, or I should go to, you would have to open sub-recipe, which means we'd have to go back into here, our cost, open sub-recipe, and now you can see, we'll go into the aioli, and if we go into nutrition, it's the distilled vinegar that is missing a conversion, which is why it's not converting for the nutrition. So edit inventory item, and we have no conversions in place. So missing conversion currently. Let's go back into the recipe, and we're using this distilled vinegar by the fluid ounce. So it actually doesn't matter how you're using it. It's going to be based on weight. Edit inventory item, go into nutrition, 100 grams. So it's missing the conversion. So I'm going to say that any vendor for a generic one or a universal one, that 1 ounce equals 1 fluid ounce. And let's go into nutrition, and now it's all converted for our nutrition here. And so we should be able to see for our Alsatian potato salad, everything is generating here within our nutritional label. If I can get this to open more, you should be able to see. I apologize, I don't have it more open. Let's go up here, move this up. All right, and so you can see how the ingredients are showing up on the nutritional label as well. If something is not converted properly for nutrition, it won't show up in the list of ingredients, and neither will any of these numbers reflect that ingredient that's missing any information there. To create a new recipe, you just go to the new button right here and go ahead and enter a title for your recipe. So Colorado Special, and we have the title. Next, I'm going to create a yield. I'm going to say that for this particular recipe, do I have the serving general? Okay, so I'm going to say 2 each. Portion is 1 each. So the number of portions populate there, at which point now I can go ahead and put the sub recipe to that and also click it as saleable. We can assign a PLU to that so that the saleable 1 each will be attached to this PLU. And then we'll say that for this Colorado Special, we are going to use 2 slices of bread. What kind of bread? You can choose from these options here, or you can do that advanced search as I showed you before, like with the text and item name, by holding down your Control and L, at which point you can go ahead and enter the name of the item you're looking for and pull up everything within your inventory that contains the word bread in there. So I'm going to say this is just going to be with white bread, and we'll hit OK. And then for here, we're going to say we're going to put 2 oz of aioli. You can fluid ounce instead. You can opt to. It's just asking you because it's been marked as a liquid if you want to use it by the fluid ounce. I'm going to say no for right now. And then we're going to put we're going to put 10 slices of avocado. Okay. And so we are going to say spread evenly on each slice where 5 slices of avocado on top. Okay, so that's the procedure. I'm going to, it's really small font, so I want to highlight and increase the font to 11. And I'm going to embolden my evenly. And I'm going to put the entire recipe. I don't think you have to actually highlight to spell check. So here I spelled slice wrong, so I'm going to choose slice, change, spell check is complete, and that's how you build the recipe. Let's go ahead into the cost. Everything's costed except our white bread. It's missing a conversion. So we are using this white bread by the slice, edit inventory item, most recent purchase, shows me 5 loaves from New York Market. However, I don't have a conversion in there, so I'm going to say that for New York Market, 1 loaf equals 16 slices. And we're going to hit OK. So now that problem is disappeared and it's getting costed out. So the single portion is showing $1.29. I'm going to charge $5 for a portion, which will now generate the percentage of cost and my margin. Nutrition, let's take a look. Everything's converted out for our nutritional label. so we don't have to address any problems. And and you know that from before, it's just because of the fact of I increased my resolution that you're not seeing the list of ingredients. But if we were to do this and just go further down, yeah, it's just scrolling issues, but you will be able to see, since there's nothing showing up on as an issue, you'll be able to see the list of ingredients towards the bottom of this. And for time purposes, I'm going to move on to the overview of getting your inventory built. So once you have all your purchases and your inventory built with purchase units and some conversions, you can go ahead and get your inventory going, physical inventory. You would go into your inventory locations. Currently, we have 17 locations. You want to create a new location. You click on this new lock button and say, we create middle closet as a location, which will open up a new location called middle closet. It's all in alphabetical orders. As you can see, now we have 18 locations. We go into middle closet. And then you will go ahead and populate your items the same way you did with your invoices. So we'll say we'll put almond butter, and then we put almonds whole, aluminum foil, almond butter, anchovies and oil, apple juice. You can go ahead and push all those in, and you'll want to make sure to populate the unit by how you're counting these items in the middle closet. Let's say your almond butter, you not only count it by the pound, but you also wanted to count it by a different unit within the same location. You can go into your general, you go into your item tab, and then you can go ahead and check whichever other unit you wanted to populate in that location. And so now you have almond butter by the pound in case, which will now generate, I'm going to hit preview, but you would hit print. So now you have your inventory list to go ahead into your middle closet and take your counts and notate here on the quantity, which will then go into inventory extensions. That's where you enter your counts. So let's say we're taking inventory today for the middle closet, and we go to middle closet, and your items will appear here by the unit of how you've had it populated in your physical inventory locations. And so you will need to address these problems first. This is probably a conversion problem similar to the ones we saw when we were doing the recipes. Purchases, last purchase was the 2-pack from Pennsylvania Farms, but we are counting this particular almond butter by the pound. So we'll say that for the almond butter from Pennsylvania Farms, that 1 pack equals 5 pounds. And we'll hit OK. And for this, we'll have to enter a case as well. So simply we can say for Pennsylvania Farms, 1 case equals 2 packs. And now you can see the problems are gone. You go ahead and enter your quantities, and that's how you get your physical inventory entered and get costing going through your inventory and your recipes. So 1, 3, 5, 2, and 3. And so you can see here, based on the last purchase price, we have our unit cost and then the extended cost here per the units we've entered. We can go ahead and hit complete and close. And then you would all run through your inventory on hand report. So let's say we're doing it for today. And I'm not sure if it'll generate for today's. Actually, it does. So this is where you will be able to identify, depending on what pieces of information you're entering here, your open inventory, which would be the last inventory you were taking, any purchases that have been entered for these items. And then it'll, because I chose the period of weekly and I have no recent purchase, it's not pulling the cost here for purchase or not showing any purchases. And then you can see how all the other bits of information get generated into this inventory on hand report. It'll give you a theoretical, the actual end based on your counts, and then shrinkage. So the gap between your actual and theoretical will appear as your shrinkage here. So there was a question that came through just to, oh no, that's not the one. Okay, so can I import an inventory or invoices from an Excel? Invoices can be imported through an interface that would be an additional product to be added to your specific product package. So it would be our technical team. If you wanted that, you would have to go through your sales rep, or if you wanted to discuss that after this call, we can do that and get that going if you're interested. We have vendor interfaces where our technical team will need to have a file sent by your vendor, your specific vendor, in a CSV format, and our technical team would then build the interface based on the that file that they provide. And first they would review to make sure that it's compatible or it's the proper format. And then once they receive the proper format, they would build the interface. And then we have two actual imports where it's a more automatic process. And it's actually done through the, for Cisco and I believe US Food Service. So then it would actually, the import would actually go to the FTP site for Cisco or US Food Service and pull all the items or on your invoice from that site into your ChefTec. There's a little legwork in the beginning because you have to match the naming conventions from those vendors to the naming convention that you've established for those purchases. You obviously don't have the same naming convention in your ChefTec database. So that's where the legwork occurs. But once you've matched the item within your database, then you don't have to match it again. And so that's the way an import can occur for your inventory from your for your invoices. And again, we can definitely chat about that after the session, which is just about done, or you can talk to your sales rep regarding that. So that's pretty much the overview of ChefTec. I just want to show that particular report, where if you're looking to really dig in and get your inventory list cleaned up, you would go to where is it? I'm going to my inventory, and no, it's not here. I'm actually going to go to my recipes. And I'm going to go, I was speaking earlier about that inventory items without nutrition used in recipes. It is here that you would be able to access this report. Any icon showing up with the white icon next to them will be able to be printed from the reports manager. Anything with the dark colored icon, you would have to follow the directions within that, that screen and go and print the report down there. From that particular functionality. Usually it is through your print drop down and any of your functionality that you're able to identify which reports are available to you. But you can see there is a large amount of reports you can generate for your purposes. We have recipes, purchases, you have detailed purchases report, nutritional labels. This is where you would formulate how you want your labels to be if you're using nutritional labels. And so on and so forth. Are there any other questions regarding any of the information that we covered here? All right, so that's the intro to ChefTec. We offer different types of training here within our training department. We have other group and structured curriculum classes where we cover higher functionalities of ChefTec. We'll dig in more in a particular class on recipes, units, and conversions. Then we also have a setting up and taking physical inventory class. And then we also have a class that covers production if you're using the production module with your ChefTec. And then if you are needing something even more, covering more higher functionality with your software, we do offer the one-on-one classes where we remote into your specific database and troubleshoot any problems you're having and help you overcome any challenges you may be encountering within your software and your database. And we offer those in 1 hour increments, or you may purchase a 5-pack at a discounted rate per the hour. So certainly you can call us in training if you wanted to get connected and have that purchase added to your record. So then you can go ahead and use those 5 if you choose to buy the 5-pack at any particular time. Very useful when you're having turnover, or if you are trying to do phase in ChefTec on different levels, and then you just need someone to kind of dig into your database. And then, of course, if you just need 1 hour to dig in to troubleshoot little tiny things and fine-tuning with your ChefTec, then we offer that as well. All right, so thank you for joining me for Intro to ChefTec. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and good luck in operating within your software.